This week on the show, Tog does their first interview for the Grackleton Gazette, a conversation with Pastel Pumpernickel. You're with Tog Chesterfield here on 101.7 FM The Grack. I'm trying to pick up the pieces and fix up my life after I hit rock bottom, and I'm taking you along as I try new things and attempt to embrace life.
Unfuck your life with Tog Chesterfield.
Welcome to the show. Right now it's 5:02 p.m. I'll be with you here for your commute, or while you prepare dinner, or while you attempt to make that picture on the wall across from your recliner exactly perpendicular with the floor. I'm your uninvited guest for the evening, or invited if you chose to dial into this FM station, I suppose. Tonight, I get to share one of my very first interviews for the Grackleton Gazette. You might remember Pastel Pumpernickel. She was in one of my very first shows here on the station. I took a class from Pastel to learn how to make sourdough and sourdough starters. Anyway, Pastel met me at a coffee shop here in Grackleton where she works. She works there baking all of their bread and pastries for them. And we met really early in the morning before they got busy, and she let me share our interview here on the show. I wanted to share this interview because it has to do with unfucking her life, just like I'm trying to do right now with mine. Oh, speaking of Pastel, Baxter Clutch had to move out because Baxter's mom needed them to move in because of a sock situation. So now Keith Evergreen is moving into my place, who is Eaton Evergreen's brother, and Eaton made a surprise appearance on the same show where you met Pastel. Grackleton is pretty small, isn't it, you guys? This is Unfuck Your Life with Tog Chesterfield on 101.7 FM The Grack. We'll be back after a quick break with my interview with Pastel Pumpernickel.
Unfuck your life with Tog Chesterfield.
The Daily Reconnect with deHaan. You might feel dissociated, isolated, or perhaps like you aren't really a part of the world. Whatever you're experiencing, together we will try to reconnect to the world and get motivated to make a difference again. Episodes will be released Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings every week when the podcast launches March 3rd. Subscribe to the Daily Reconnect wherever you find your podcasts from StereoForest.com. Back to the show. Pastel and I have some stuff in common. We both lost things that were really important to us. I lost my job at Apocalypse.Cloud, and Pastel lost a major opportunity too. She pitched a bakery segment to the Grack Public Access station. Here's my interview with Pastel, which I recorded over the weekend at a brand new coffee house downtown called The Nested Bean, where Pastel works. Thank you for joining me here, Pastel. So can you tell us what happened at the pitch?
Well, Tog, that's sort of the million-dollar question, if you will. My pitch was literally $1 million. For multiple episodes, though, for multiple segments.
Oh.
But, so I had this idea where I wanted to have some drones come in, and that was because I was pitching them an outdoor kitchen where I would bake my breads and my sourdoughs, and it was going to be outdoors, so we had to accommodate for the weather, and I had this fantastic idea of having a drone come in. It was going to be flying in and then over the wood fire stove, and it was going to be fantastic, but they said no.
Oh, they didn't like the idea?
Well, they said your pitch is $1 million and we have no budget.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess.
Well, I asked them what they were going to pay me with, but they said, well, this is public access, so you're here at will. I mean, they also told me I could use my own $1 million, but then I told them, well, I don't have $1 million. And they said, well, neither do we. And so it ended up being a no.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
I mean, come to think of it, it might be a little bit like what happened with your potato thing, Tog.
No, it's nothing like the incident.
Oh, okay.
And that's what led to your depression, the TV pitch?
Yes.
Okay, so what was the depression like?
Well, Tog, I think it was pretty much like any other depressions. I mean, I don't think I was really special in the depression department or anything like that. I mean, I think most people have difficulty in the mornings, and that's where I really noticed it, because I'm a morning person. I mean, Look at me here, first thing in the morning, up with the birds, baking all these pastries and this bread. I mean, look at the sourdough right here, Tog.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I just lost everything. I used to do this full continental breakfast. It had the beans and the sausages. You like a good bean, don't you, Tog? Well, I know you're into the potatoes more.
I like beans too.
I sometimes did a hash brown that you would probably like, Tog.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was just fabulous. And I would do my sourdough, of course, on the side to
Of course.
sop up all that food. It was wonderful.
Oh, it sounds lovely, Pastel.
Yeah, I just didn't do any of that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's understandable.
Well, it took every morning. It just took hours to complete anything. I mean, Tog, sometimes I wouldn't even brush my teeth.
Oh.
I can't believe that I'm admitting that here.
Oh, well, I didn't either, so we'll both admit it.
Well, I also had, this distinct inability, I suppose, to just make basic decisions. I mean, I couldn't decide what to eat. I mean, I wouldn't be able to decide between a bowl of cornflakes versus my continental breakfast. I mean, I couldn't decide what to wear. Tog, I mean, I wore a smock all the week long. The same smock, and I would wear it to bed too.
Oh, I get that. I didn't change my clothes for long periods of time. I mean, I wore the same sweater yesterday.
And Tog, I mostly gave up, most of my hobbies. I loved the baking, and I didn't do the baking even. I loved to go out in the garden. I didn't do any of those things.
Oh, yeah, I love gardening as well. I have a scarecrow.
The clutter and the dishes and everything would pile up, but, I am going to admit it here. I mean, I am here for an interview, and I should be honest. I mean, for me, the thing that just bothered me the most, and I don't really know why, but it really affected how I did the onions.
The onions?
Yes, the onions.
Well, do explain if you can.
Well, it was how I chopped the onions. I guess I'll have to explain this, Tog.
Okay, yeah.
See, the onions, I had a very particular way that I would chop the onions, Tog.
Right.
I would take the onions and I would chop them in a very exacting way that actually corresponded with the layer that the onion, like the thickness of the active onion layer. So I would chop in such a way where, regardless of what layer was in question, every single piece would basically be exactly the same.
Couldn't you do that with like one of those little choppers that have the squares?
Well, see, here's the thing, Tog. I believe that if you use one of those onion choppers, it's akin to cheating.
Oh, I see.
I mean, not like cheating with a partner, cheating against your partner, cheating on your partner. No, it's like cheating on your onion. And Tog, see, I take it very seriously. I tend to, a lot of my self-worth is wrapped up in how I prepare my onions, and you see, my depression affected that.
Oh, how you did it.
It was very important to me. So I just I noticed I was doing a rough chop.
Right.
Yeah, like a rustic chop, a really rough and rustic chop, and that wasn't who I was. And I noticed it with the onions, and that just, it was something that I just took as just a definitive sign that I was definitely in a depression if I was producing onions, even just for the household in that manner. Just such a rustic, rough chop meant that I was definitely in depression.
Right. Okay. But what did it feel like, your depression, when you noticed you're in it?
Oh, what a good question, Tog.
Oh, thank you. I'm new at this.
Well, you see, it's like, I mean, a lot of people say getting out of depression is like climbing up a mountain. And I mean, I could say that I was in a valley, but I think probably a little bit more accurate is like I was living underwater. I mean, everything slows down and everything is kind of muffled and the surface just seems so far away. But I think maybe it's a little bit more like you're a guppy.
Like a fish?
Yes, Tog, a guppy. You know, those small fish.
Right.
The little ones.
Oh,
they have.
okay.
You see, Tog, they have a. Guppies, I think, I'm not a guppy expert by any means, Tog, but a guppy has a very particular spot that they would need to live, you know, in order to thrive, if you will.
Okay.
And see, I was like a guppy that was in, you know, too deep of the water or just in some place that the guppy wasn't supposed to be.
Right. Dangerous to the guppy.
And you see, I knew that I had to get to another place in the water, but I just couldn't.
Right. I think I get it, Pastel. So, and what happened next? When did things start turning around for you?
Well, you see, that's the funny thing, Tog, is just when I was in the depression itself, I really felt, you know, that I couldn't get to that other place because I was this guppy in this deep, weird part of the ocean I wasn't supposed to be in, you know.
Right.
So what happened was my partner, Puck, they were injured and they really needed my help. And it was really quite simple what they needed, but I was shocked that I was able to provide that. It was the strangest thing. I mean, by all intents and purposes, I shouldn't have been able to help at all. I couldn't even decide what to wear, Tog. I was wearing my smock all week long, but suddenly I just leapt into action. I had this feeling of terror, Tog, and that feeling of terror just it seemed to give me great clarity. It was so strange, Tog. I mean, the fog, it lifted. It was like I was lifted to the right part of the ocean for my guppy self. And it was only because it was like a 5-alarm fire in my bakery. It was like it was in the kitchen and blaring, and I had to get my prized loaf out of the kitchen before it burned. I mean, Tog, I don't want to make it seem like my partner Puck is like a loaf of bread. I mean, so a loaf of bread is one of my favorite things, and Puck is also one of my favorite things. So I guess comparing my partner Puck to a loaf of bread isn't really a bad thing, but I guess it probably sounds pretty weird to most people, but anyways, it was like the fire was in the kitchen and I had to get the loaf out. I mean, Tog, I had this fear, this terror, if you will, that if I didn't do the right things, that my partner would never get better, and without my support, maybe they would leave, or maybe the whole house would collapse, or something awful would happen. So whatever that was, it just suddenly made me not really in the depression anymore.
So what did you do then when you realized you could do things again?
Oh, well, that's a good question, Tog.
Thank you. I'm new at this.
I found myself just kind of able to do all these things that were entirely impossible before. I was able to organize some of the appointments that we needed to go to, and I was able to keep the house functional too, and I was able to actually cook again. I was making my continental breakfast and all these nutritious meals as well. I mean, I made this meal, Tog. Oh, it was just fantastic. Oh, you would like it, Tog. It was actually potato gnocchis. I took the potato gnocchis and I just fried them in butter. Oh, it was so good. And I fried them in the butter, and then I went and I roasted them under in a wood burning stove that I have. I have it off my back deck. I guess I could have filmed the show there. On my back deck. Oh. Anyways, see, I roasted them in my wood stove, and then I just threw some arugula on top and a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Oh,
sounds good.
It was so. Oh, and then I took. Oh, Tog, you'll like this because it's potato gnocchis, and then I took the red pepper flakes. You know what I call them, Tog?
RPFs?
You'll never guess.
RPFs.
Oh, you were right. Yes, I do call them RPFs. You call them RPFs too, Tog?
I do, Pastel.
Oh, see, we're connecting over RPFs. Who would have thought? Anyways, yes, it was just a fantastic meal.
So, why do you think you could suddenly do all those things?
Well, I think it was the fear, you know. It was that it was a non-paralyzing fear. I mean, usually we get fear and we're paralyzed, but this was like fear that was motivating. Like, I was motivated by the fear. It like booted my behind into action, and it was like stronger than the depression, I suppose. But what I figured at the time, Tog, and I mean, this is where it gets kind of real, is I felt that wouldn't last forever, and then I kind of got fearful of that. Like, when is this going to be over? You know, when is this not going to work anymore? So it kind of helped me a little, to be honest, but I knew it wasn't going to necessarily be reliable, you know. At least that's what I reckoned. So I used it as my opportunity to have enough energy to get myself out of that ocean as the guppy, you know, to kind of flop my way up to the right part of the ocean. And then I could, from there, kind of fix myself, if you will. Do you understand what I mean, Todd?
Yeah, I do. I do understand, Pastel.
But do you, though?
I think I do.
You think you do?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Anyways, I just didn't know if I made sense.
Oh, I think you make sense. So how are you, like, digging yourself out and protecting yourself from falling into the ocean again?
Well, Tog, now I have my routines, and I mean, now I'm working here as well, which really helps. But I also have routines even when I'm working that the ones that I make myself. So here, let me show you. This is my book.
Oh, that's nice.
Can you see?
Yeah, it's got a grid.
Yeah. So I have my full schedule on here, and actually it shows me that I have to leave this conversation at 7:32.
Oh, that's coming up close for us.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
we are actually, and I watch for the warning signs of executive dysfunction.
And what's that?
Well, the onions, of course.
Oh, of course. Rustic chop. And it's time for the weather.
I'm driving in the car.
Tonight's weather for your drive at 5 with Unfuck Your Life is brought to you by the Nested Bean on 10th and Stern Street, where the beans are roasted darker than Grackleton's secrets. Oh, saucy.
Get ready for the weather.
Tonight, Grackleton is expecting about 3 water millimeters of rain north of 10th Street, but significantly less than elsewhere.
You just learned all about the weather.
And that's it for the weather on your drive at 5 from the Nested Bean. The Nested Bean. Our coffee is like Grackleton weather, surprisingly intense and oddly satisfying. Oh, well, that's saucy.
Unfuck Your Life with Todd Chesterfield.
So my interview with Pastel revealed a lot about her experience looking after her partner, Puck, but also about her own mind. I had no idea Pastel had been through so much when I was taking her class. That's the wild thing, listener. You never really know, do you? But Pastel taught me something about getting motivated to change yourself. Sometimes it might be because of your fear, a fear of something being worse than if you don't act right away. And I realized that maybe I've been doing all these things, all these businesses and adventures that I've told you about because I'm fearful of being a permanent disappointment to people, like after losing my job, or becoming irrelevant in the community in Grackleton because I no longer go to a workplace, or what if I never find meaning again in the things that I do? But if I just use those things to push me to unfuck my life, I don't think that it will last a long time, just like Pastel said. Like her, I need to find some kind of intrinsic motivation based on the things that Tog values, on the things that I want, not just try to escape from the things I fear and... Hey, Tog there, buddy.
Hello.
I am really sorry for bugging you here, but I have a really quick question for you, man.
Okay.
So I was looking at the situation down in the kitchen, and I just wanted to see if it was okay. Like, I got your note there about using half your fridge, but I'm like, I don't need to use half your fridge.
Oh.
I could actually just use my own, if that's okay with you.
Oh, you brought your own fridge along?
Yeah, I usually roll with my own fridge when I move into
Oh.
places. I bring my own fridge and I put it next to the fridge that's in the place that I'm coming into. You were I was wondering if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I suppose I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can make it fit. I got a crowbar in my
Oh.
car. I could just
Oh.
I just usually winch it in a little, just a little bit of a winch.
Oh, a winch with a crowbar.
Okay, I'll see if it works. Are you okay with me seeing if that works?
Yeah, go look.
Awesome. Okay, I'll just close the door here for you there, bud.
Okay.
So that's it for this week's episode of the show here on 101.7 FM The Grack. Stay tuned for Mailbox Decor, jazzing up your mailbox with Marianne Foote, but with an intentional emission of bedazzling. What the...
You have been listening to Unfuck Your Life with Todd Chesterfield, a StereoForest production. This episode was written, directed, edited, produced, and all voices were by deHaan. You can find all show notes and sign up to get notified about new episodes on StereoForest.com.